Hello and happy Friday. Another Friday means another SEGA News Bits Live. That's what the kids are saying, at least. Welcome. I'm very excited to do this episode because there's actually a lot of news to discuss. We've been doing these shows on and off last year, but this year I'm a little more committed to doing them every other week. I'm trying to do them intermittently with the SEGA Talk episodes, but this episode actually hits the same week as SEGA Talk hits. So let's get right into all the news that's been going on in the world of SEGA. SEGA. Or the eyeball thing. Remember that? It goes, boom. I don't know. I kind of find the eyeball boring. But yeah, so we just posted our IDW Sonic Retrospective, SEGA Talk number 180. If we stay on track with our release schedule, I believe the final episode of the year will actually be episode 200, which is very exciting. It's a great episode. I suggest you check it out if you have or haven't read the IDW Sonic comics. It's kind of wild that we're moving into issue, what is it, like 83 or 84 right now? But yeah, check that episode out. A little bit of Virtua Fighter Revo news. So Virtua Fighter REVO World Stage Nintendo Switch 2 version open beta test began on the evening of February 18th, and it's running until the 24th, so you have 4 more days. But as specified, it's Switch 2, not Switch 1. It's not on any PlayStation. It's not on any Xbox platforms. They did actually announce a physical release, but it's on one of those fake cartridges, those phony cartridges. So I don't know. I'm not as excited about that. You can hit the site up. The breaking news this week was that Kristen Bell wants to build a snowman. Actually, she did. Remember that? There was that holiday special where Amy. It was the Sonic Mania Adventures Christmas special, when Amy built a snowman with Metal Sonic. I don't know, maybe they didn't. Maybe that was just some promo art Sega did in the same style. I'll have to revisit it. But anywho, Kristen Bell, announced as Amy. I initially was a little like, like it's kind of an expected pick. It's a safe pick. Nothing too exciting there. I definitely think Idris Elba and Keanu Reeves were bigger reveals. This one, I think I got my wires crossed because I initially was kind of let down. But then I remember so Kristen Bell voices Anna in Frozen. And the actress I did not want to get the role was Anna Kendrick, who plays like the voice of like a dozen cartoon characters, but most annoyingly the Trolls movies. I can't stand those movies. They're playing nonstop. Unless I turn them off in my house because of children. But yeah, I think Kristen Bell's a fine choice. I mean, you've got a little bit of that Disney connection there. I actually told my older daughter that the voice of Anna was going to be the voice of Amy because she's starting to understand like how films are made, and she got excited, so that's great. But yeah, I can't imagine her singing in the movie. She doesn't always sing. But yeah, Hollywood Reporter revealed it. Not too much else to say. She hasn't even really spoken on it. There was a social media post of Ben Schwartz and her posing with their little Funko Pops. I'm sure the Sonic brand managers were like, no, you got to pose with Sonic movie merch so we can have some synergy there. Why are you holding Pops from the games? You don't voice the game characters. Maybe they don't care. But yeah, I'm interested to hear in the comments what you all think. In the comments here, we have Sonic Sama back at it again with whoa, baby coffee time with Big Bear. That would be a good talk show name. We're talking about the eyeball. The SEGA eyeball is creepy as frick. Thank you for censoring yourself there. Schlu23 says the eyeball is boring, plus the TV would have to be displayed backwards. That's true, yeah. So there's a reflection in the eye of the Sega logo, but the Sega logo would have to be backwards for the eye to see it correctly. And that was a Nagoshi thing. I don't know if you all remember, there was a video that went out not too long ago, and it was Nagoshi walking through the streets of Japan, being inspired, and then it like ended with the eye, because it's all about like the eye reacting to Sega. And I feel like now that we have new leadership, maybe they're going to phase out the eye. I think just go back to the classic Sega. Like, that's all you need. You don't need anything else. Even games use that still. The next bit of news. Oh, this thing. All right, so Basic Fun, from what I gather, bought Arcade 1-Up. Arcade 1-Up went out of business, but then Basic Fun bought the brand. And Basic Fun, I think, do their own arcade cabinets. I could be wrong. So it seems like it's kind of like different people, but basically the same kind of product. And they were showing off these new Sonic the Hedgehog home arcade cabinets. And you might say, ooh, does this mean we're getting a home arcade cabinet of Sonic the Fighters and Sega Sonic the Hedgehog Arcade, which I've long been championing for? No, unfortunately. What we're getting is a very weird mix of... well, let's see if this video will play. Yeah, here we go. So it's a woman playing Sonic the Hedgehog on an arcade machine. And I'm just going to pause here for a second. You can see... Can I zoom? I don't want to try messing with that. You can see Knuckles on the side. Little Knuckles. But Knuckles isn't in any of the games on the machine. The machine has Sonic, Sonic 2, Mean Bean Machine, and 3D Blast. Now, Knuckles does play like a NPC role in 3D Blast, but there's no Knuckles on this machine. No playable Knuckles. Another thing I want to flag is the use, and the woman's hand's kind of covering it. You can see it a little bit there, but that is the modern Sonic logo, and then up here is the classic Sonic. And Sega has two different like asset packs for license holders. One for classic Sonic use, one for modern Sonic use. You'll see it on the action figures, the comics, but here clearly they are just kind of mix and matching. I think the like weird random blue shapes and yellow shapes don't, like, they could have gone either with a black black Genesis grid. They could have gone with the Japanese like white and pops of yellow and red, like, and all the shapes with just this kind of sort of does. But then it has these like super detailed sprites of the characters that don't appear in the games. I think the header with Green Hill Zone is very boring. Like, I think if anything, just show the titles of all 4 games on the machine, or just don't make this machine, because as much as I love these games, like, none of these games are bad to me. These are all great games. I wouldn't want to own this, because I own so many versions of these games, and imagine this thing taking up so much space in my room to play games that I can play on the TV behind me in much better versions of it. I could play the Switch version, I could play the Saturn version, the Genesis version. So I feel like this needs, as the kids say, more time to cook. And hopefully Sega pushes back, because apparently they haven't gotten Sega's approval yet on the assets. So hopefully Sega at least pushes back on the use of the modern Sonic logo, the use of Knuckles, which has been called out a lot. I think this is a boring product. I think, obviously, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, like, we sorted out the music situation, so I don't know why it's not on here, but that's okay. In the comments, we have Sonic Sama saying, the Sonic arcade cabinet is a monkey's paw of the highest degree. I still want it, but I'll be grumpy about it. Yeah, I'd be grumpy about it. Bar top arcade stick for a 2D platformer is wild. Oh, bat top. Yeah, that would be kind of difficult. I don't know. We also have a little behind the scenes thing. Still time to submit comments for Japanese Saturn exclusives on the Patreon? No, unfortunately, we recorded that last night. Our next episode is going to be Dick Tracy. I'm very excited about that. So we're going to get our Dicker on. Yes, that's the underwhelming arcade news. Also in underwhelming news, lots of underwhelming Sonic news this week outside of the Kristen Bell reveal. Sega has announced the end of service for Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2 for Apple and Android devices. And this was actually we kind of loved this game. So basically, back in 2013, here's an article that I need to kind of reformat. It looks a little wacky. We did our favorite Sega games of 2013. 2013 was a terrible year because we were like trying to find anything good. Like there just weren't really that many releases. Anything that did release was kind of and I actually picked Sonic 1 and 2 for iOS and Android as my favorite Sega game of 2013, as did George. Meanwhile, the Typing of the Dead Overkill was another pick, and then Lost World came out that week, or that year, and Castle of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse, which in hindsight was a very good game. And then 3D Space Harrier, which was it's cool. It's one of my favorite ways to play Space Harrier, but I feel like with the 2013 Sonic 1 and 2, it was the debut of Taxman and Stealth. They did a fantastic job. They added a lot of little quality of life improvements. It's basically the game in 16:9 in a beautiful, solid frame rate. You can play as Tails in Sonic 1. I might be wrong. But then they had a lot of little secrets. There were, you could actually go into the level select and play Sonic 1 and 2 using the elemental shields from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and they would actually place them in strategic places that you could use. So it was a very fun and unique new way to play the original two games. That actually did carry over to the Sonic Origins release, but what didn't was something called Proto Palace Zone. So you might be thinking, I can play Hidden Palace Zone in Sonic Origins. Well, yeah, that's in there. But what they removed was the ability to access Proto Palace, which was the original Hidden Palace map and assets, as you would see in those leaked materials and beta releases, but they made it playable. Like they removed all of the things that made it impossible to continue. And it was just a really fun little look back in time. It's, I'm sure for some people, like having that little thing missing from Origins is like, who cares, Barry? But still, I think it's something. And plus, the ability to play the games in 16:9 with the normal Sonic life instead of the coins system, because if you remember, Origins forces the coins on you. But in any case, end of service basically means that there are no more ads running on these, which is great. I've heard people complain about the ads. So I actually paid for the original releases before it was Taxman and Stealth, and they replaced those versions with these. So these were essentially free to me at the time. I believe I spent $2 to $5 each on the original iOS games. And so these were free for the longest time. I think, though, when it became a Sega Forever title, I was being fed ads even though I had paid for the app, which was kind of annoying. But now the ads don't appear, and the ads had never appeared on the Apple TV version, and don't sleep on that. Like, if you don't own anything in the Apple ecosystem, still just make an Apple account, download these to have them to your account, and then in the future, if you see an Apple TV used or something, pick it up, pair it with like your favorite Bluetooth controller, and enjoy, because it is a absolute delight to play like with a I like the Xbox controller, so yeah, it's a lot of fun to play on the TV without any of the extra Origins stuff. And I like Origins, but I also just like playing these games as they are in these versions. So they're not delisted yet. They will be soon, which is sad because Sonic CD was delisted, as was Sonic 4, I believe 1 and 2. So it's just like a mass erasure from Sega of Sonic's 2D iOS adventures, which really stings because this is actually what got me really blogging to begin with, way back in the Nomad Junkyard days. Very briefly, I'll touch on the Chaotix case files. There's, I believe, 4 episodes out now. We'll be seeing another one next week. It's an enjoyable show. I like it. Not too much more to say about that, but give it a listen. It gets the thumbs up from me. The last bit, let me see if this is the last bit. Yeah, this is the last bit of news I'm going to talk about. Hideki Sato, the father of Sega console hardware, has passed away. And this is a fantastic article written by Big Elk. You can check it out on the site. But I told him I was actually going to read it in full this week because people seem to enjoy the... unfortunately, David Rosen passed away just recently, too. Like, two of the most important people to Sega history. One of the original founders and then the man responsible for all of the console hardware we love so much. So I thought it would be a disservice for me to like glance over, whatever. So I'm going to read it in full. So let's see. Yeah, I'll read it in full. Why not? Let me get a little swig of coffee. That doesn't really help your throat, does it? It's like, Here we go. So on February 13th, 2026. I need to update that for him. He was actually going to update it. The main designer of every Sega home console, Hideki Sato, passed away at the age of 77. News of his passing was first reported over the weekend by Japanese gaming news outlet Beep21, and then later by a few English-language outlets like Kotaku. Sato-san was the main man behind the overall design of all Sega home consoles. The SG-1000, Mark III, Master System, Genesis Mega Drive, Saturn, and Dreamcast were all designed by him and would undoubtedly be very different forms of tech without his influence. He fully took charge of Sega's R&D department as part of the job designing the Genesis years. Before all that, however, he had worked on arcade hardware at Sega, right after joining the company in 1971, straight out of Tokyo Metropolitan Technical College. He would also serve as the company's president from 2001 to 2003, as Sega was making their rough transition from console hardware company to just a game development publishing company, where his penchant for leadership was especially crucial. While he may not be the only man responsible for these consoles being the way they were, he was still a highly important figure in their construction. His intuitive thinking drove Sega's hardware team to push boundaries and construct beautiful designs that stood the test of time. The forward thinking became part and parcel of what kind of philosophy that drove Sega and won them so many lifelong fans throughout the decades. No matter what your favorite Sega console is, you can thank Sato-san for just about anything you love best about it. If you'd like to hear more about this legendary designer, you can read more after the break. Hey, let's take a break, and we're back. For now, though, on behalf of SegaBits and Sega fans all over the world, I will give personal thanks to Sato for his services to gaming. I can only hope his final hours were peaceful and that he may rest in peace for now. Oh, rest in peace now. For now. It seems like we're being a little... Much condolences go out to his surviving friends and family as well. So let's talk about his history. So Hideki Sato was born November 5th, 1950, and began his long career at Sega Enterprises Ltd. In April of 71 at the ripe age of 20. Wow. This was right around the time that Sega was beginning to make their start in arcade games, and Sato was among many people tasked with bringing these games to life for many years. He was also among the many arcade staff tasked with putting together Sega's earliest home consoles. And here we have a picture of the Sega MyCard from Mark III. You might have seen these. You maybe even own some. Sato was especially proud of the MyCard format games developed for the SG-1000 and Mark III Master System. He believed that the more compact form factor made it easier for kids to bring games to a friend's house and to show them or lend them. He also preferred the cards because he personally believed the SG-1000's cartridges looked to him like tombstones sticking out of the ground after being placed in the console, a bad omen for the console's failure. Sato was also reminded of the MyCard format after card-like data formats such as the PCM CIA card was introduced for computers. To him, this was a sign that the MyCard was one of the many incredible Sega innovations he had a hand in that also happened to be ahead of their time. The Master System's market failure is what gave Sato his big break. Having already made his way up through the corporate ladder at a good pace by then, Sega trusted him and his team to make something really special to succeed the Master System. Sato knew they couldn't pull any punches if they wanted any hope of competing against Nintendo's market domination with the NES/Famicom. Especially with news that the 16-bit successor to that console The Super Nintendo Entertainment System was on the way. Without much budget or time to create something, he decided to repurpose already existing technology that was at least good enough to present itself as an obvious upgrade from the 8-bit hardware and settled on converting the Sega System 16 arcade board into an affordable home console. Motorola's 68,000 CPU, the main processor for that arcade board, had also dropped significantly in price since it was a couple of years old by then, aiding in the new console's affordability. And here you can see this really cool picture of him autographing a Mega Drive in gold ink. I love that. It's the perfect, like he designed the perfect spot for a vertical signature there. The result of that brainstorming was the Mega Drive, a console not only capable of compressive conversions of arcade games from the day, but also backwards compatible with the Mark III Master System games so that Mega Drive owners could pad out their library with already available 8-bit games while the new 16-bit games were still being prepared. Sato also believed that the console had to stand out visually as a high-spec piece of tech and not just produce impressive graphics and sound, but make a splash. So he went to the console designed with had the console designed with inspiration from hi-fi audio systems, which you might have noted with the Mega Drive. There's a mini input on the front as well as that volume slider. It's very like hi-fi audio. Very cool. He also made a point to add the word 16-bit in bold golden lettering on the Mega Drive to help illustrate to customers what a hot new piece of tech this was compared to what was before. Something Sato admits himself was very expensive. This was in stark contrast to Famicon's highly toy-like design, which even Nintendo of America felt would not work outside of Japan, prompting them to redesign the NES into a VCR-like design that looked nothing like the Famicom. It would be taken more seriously as a piece of tech for Westerners because of this change. The Mega Drive may have floundered in Japan, but it was a mega hit in the Western territories, especially in North America, where it was instead known as the Genesis. For the first time in video game history, another company had actually overtaken Nintendo in market dominance, even if just for a brief time. And that company was SEGA, thanks in part to Sato's ingenuity. SEGA awarded Sato handsomely by appointing him the new managing director and general manager of hardware development and design in June of 1993. From that position, he would go on to design the Saturn and Dreamcast with similar forward-thinking, high-tech, design-focused inspirations. He would then be appointed to vice president and representative director in 2001. Sadly, 2001 was right as Sega announced they were leaving the console race and calling it quits on the Dreamcast. Following them, then company president Isao Okawa's sudden death that same year, Sato would suddenly be promoted from VP to president and tasked with leading Sega through their transition to a third-party home software developer, a testament to how much respect and trust he had earned within Sega by then. While the failure of Sega's two consoles may have been a gut punch for him, he managed to hold onto the positive outlook and see Sega through a turbulent period of time. He would also be the one to sign the deal to merge Sega with Sammy Corporation, which we still have to this day, and then relinquish his position as company president to Sammy's own Hajime Satomi in 2004. Sato would then live out his last couple of years with Sega as vice chairman. There he is. Some of the best consoles in video game history came from some truly genius minds of engineering, and Hideki Sato was definitely one of those great minds. He embodied a unique and bold philosophy with hardware design and presentation that went hand in hand with the attitude we all know and love from Sega's best years. Even if those consoles weren't commercial successes they needed to be at the time, they stand out in the annals of game history way better than most other unsuccessful consoles from years gone by. That's very true. As stated before, no matter what it is you love about those consoles, Hideki Sato was likely the man behind that aspect, and it's hard to imagine how different it could have been without his influence. Not only that, but it's rare for hardware or software engineers to take the reins of a whole company. Most people who get to take such a lofty position are people who never worked on the ground floor worked on the ground floor on either, and sometimes have a disconnect with the entire part of the company. Nintendo had Satoru Iwata as the man for that job for some time, but Hideki Sato was Sega's man for the job. In the time designing Sega consoles, he wasn't just putting them together all his own. He led a team of experienced designers to put them together and bounce ideas off of to create those unforgettable designs. The skills on display there could not be underestimated if the company's higher-ups decided years later... The skills on display there cannot be underestimated if the company's higher-ups decided years later he should be the one leading the entire company, especially at a time when Sega was hemorrhaging hundreds of millions of dollars during their last few years as a hardware developers and the period of change after that. That would be a tough job for the best businessmen in the world, but Hideki Sato bravely saw the company through this crucial change, allowing them to live on today. So yes, please leave your comments in the article we have on the website. Let's treat this almost as like his memorial page, at least on the SegaBits.com. I don't know if one exists elsewhere on the internet. Maybe there does on a Japanese website, but yeah, truly a great man, and very, very. I mean, I suggest you all search out interviews with him. He did some recently, I think in the last few years, some very interesting insight into hardware design. One of my favorite bits, let me see if I can illustrate it. Yeah, I have it here. So the Sega Dreamcast, if you recall, it's over there, but on the front of it, it has that little arrow on the front. Part of it's on the lid, and part of it's that little light up orangish reddish jewel, and it's pointing towards you. It's an arrow pointing towards you, saying, you put the game in, you turn it on, the arrow points to you, saying it's time for you to play the game. And then look at this cool little touch. The start button is an arrow pointing back to the console as kind of a call and response. So it's like, turn it on, your VMU beeps because the battery's dead, and then you press start to start the game. So it's kind of like a time to play, and then you go, yes sir, and it goes back. And it's just such a cool little design touch. So I think the best thing that we could all do for Hideki Sato is, aside from leaving some positive comments about your favorite things about the design of Sega hardware on our article, is to just take a moment this weekend to take a look at any of the Sega consoles you own and just kind of appreciate the design of them. And by that I mean take a look at the shape, the form factor, elements you may have not really have noticed before. My favorite is on the Dreamcast. There's like this sort of almost like, it's like a dreamlike swoop on the sides. It goes up and then it kind of comes down like that, and then there's those little squares. Like, none of that needed to be there. It could have just been a boring brick. And I think there's even been pictures of like prototype Dreamcasts that look just like that. But yeah, it's just, I still say the Dreamcast, and we have Sonic Sama here in the comments saying it's the best design console of all time. I would definitely have to agree with that. Dreamcast is a beautifully designed console. It's compact. Like, look at that. Look at it. It's this. It's just a little bit bigger than the shape of a CD, and it's all there. No space goes to waste. You have the power button, the eject button, the 4 controller ports. You go around on the back. You have the modem that you can replace with the broadband connector or connect other things to it. It's such a beautiful, small little console, but very powerful in my mind. And even the Genesis, like, it's such a cool machine. The Master System, it's, like, he had a hand in all the stuff that always sits behind me here. So, yeah, a huge Sega Bits salute and Sega fan salute to Hideki Sato. And I really hope we don't have to do more of these, because between David Rosen and Hideki Sato, it's been kind of sad to lose such great people from Sega's past. But can I end this on a high note? I don't know. Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, that's, celebrating his life's a high note. I got this at Ross, a Sonic paint your own figurine kit. So there's that. But that ought to do it for this Sega News Bits Live. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in 2 weeks. You can check out the latest Sega Talk podcast, IDW Sonic number 1 to 32. And then in 2 weeks, we're recording our Dick Tracy episode. And we just recorded a Patreon exclusive episode, 5 Saturn imports. So George picked 5 Sega Saturn imports that he thinks are worth your time. And based on the prices of those things, I would suggest you get one of those little emulator Saru things. But that ought to do it. We'll see you next time on Sega News Bits Live. I'm Barry. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next game.